Welcome back, guys. Mrs. Matheson here again. We're going to be covering Notes 3 today for Unit 1, which is on slope-intercept and point-slope form. So our learning target today is I can graph and write equations in slope-intercept and point-slope form. Let's get started with looking at slope-intercept form. This should look familiar to you. We have y equals mx plus b. So when it's in this form, it's in our slope-intercept form. And the m, that's our slope, and our b is our y-intercept. The y and the x here, you're never going to plug anything in. So never plug in here and here. Okay, so those will always be a y and an x in our equation. Then we are going to talk about the slope. Slope, we think about its rise over run, or the change in y over the change in x. Or, big formula here that you really want to make sure you have, it's very important. It's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And that's when we get slope from 2 points. Slope from 2 points. All right. The y-intercept, that's just when the point where the graph crosses the y-axis. Or you want to think about it, it's where the y value, or the y value where x is equal to 0. And when do we use slope-intercept form? Just to graph linear equations. A lot of times we'll ask you to put your solution into slope-intercept form. So let's actually use it. Slope-intercept form, we need to write our equations in this form. So remember, we want to be thinking y equals mx plus b. We're given our slope and we're giving our y-intercept. So we just need to plug these in. So we have y equals, our slope goes in, so negative 2x, and then our b is positive, so we have plus 2. And that's it. Real basic for just plugging it in. Go ahead and let's do number 2. So we end up with y equals 4/3. Yep, slope is a fraction sometimes. X, oh, negative. So we're going to minus 4. And that's our solution. All right, so let's go actually into writing the equation from the graph. So we have two things we need. We need that slope again, and we need our y-intercept. I always like to start with the y-intercept. I find that that's pretty easy to start off with. And it's just where our line crosses our y-axis. So right here, so that y-intercept is negative 2. Our slope, this is going to take us a little bit more. Slope we want to think about is rise over run. You can do our slope formula. I like to just, if I have a graph, I like to look at it and see, well, where does it cross the x-axis or cross the axes? And so these points here. So I'm just going to count. What's my rise? So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3. So rise is 3 over my run. I go to the right 2. So both of those are positive movements. So we have my slope and my y-intercept. So y equals 3/2 x minus 2. All right, I'm going to leave number 4 for you guys to try out writing the equation for that one. So again, start off with finding your slope and your y-intercept. Y-intercept is usually a little bit easier to begin with. All right, so now let's actually graph the equations. Graphing the equations, we start with the y-intercept and then graph your slope. So start with y-intercept, then graph slope. All right, so our y-intercept in number 5 is a positive 4. So I'm going to go up 4 on the y-axis because it's the y-intercept and make my point. Now, my slope is graphed from that y-intercept. My slope here in this problem is negative 3, but let's think about slope as a fraction. So negative tells me I'm going to go down 3, so I go down from 4, 1, 2, 3. I'm just making those dots so you can see them, and then it's a positive 1. So I'm going to go to the right. So there's my point. Let me erase those little extra marks for you. Okay, now I'm going to ask you to graph as many points as possible on your graph. I'm going to go down another 3, 1, 2, 3, and over another 1. Then we're going to go down another 3, 1, 2, 3, and over another 1. You also can go the opposite direction, but in this case, we don't have any space on our graph. So go ahead and connect your dots, and we have graphed our equation. Not too bad. All right, looking at number 6. Number 6, again, we're going to start with the y-intercept. So our y-intercept this time is a -2. And then I'm going to do my slope. My slope, remember, let's think about it as a fraction, 2 over 1. So I can go up 2 and to the right 1 because they're both positive. Up 2 to the right 1, up 2 to the right 1, up 2 to the right 1. Now, we can also go back the other direction. -2 over -1 is the same slope as +2 over +1. So we can go down 2. Again, I'm just going to make some little marks, and to the left 1. We can go down 2 and to the left 1. So let me erase those little extra marks for you. So there's our points for our graph. All right. So on the back side of your note sheet, we have point slope form. Point slope form of an equation is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And x1 and y1 is actually a point or an ordered pair from the line. Again, y and x that are by themselves, we are never going to plug in here. It always will stay at x and a y because we need those in our solutions. So, well, when do we use point slope form? Well, you use point slope form when you're given a point and a slope. So on the last page on the slope intercept stuff, we dealt with when we got a slope and a y-intercept. Well, here we're talking about a slope and an actual point, an ordered pair. Or when you're given 2 points, you are going to also use point slope form. Okay, so write the equation in point slope form. So again, let's think point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now these minus signs here, really think about them as it's going to make that term opposite. Okay, so we're going to have y minus, let me do this, x1, y1. Well, our y1 is 2. So it's going to be y minus 2 equals our slope times x minus our x1. And honestly, that's all we have to do for point slope form when we're given a slope and a point. You don't have to go any further. All right, so looking at 8, we're going to think about, we have y minus our y1 and equals our slope times x minus our x1. Well, because our x1 and our y1 were both negative, minus the negative is going to turn to plus a positive. So we get y plus 3 equals 2 times x plus 2. And there we have our point slope equation. Now, these answers here are for when I ask you to write it in point slope form. Sometimes we might ask you to start it in point slope form and then give us your solution in slope intercept form. All right, so here I'm giving you 2 ordered pairs. I want you to find the slope for both of these problems, 9 and 10. So remember, slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm just going to give you x1, y1, x2, y2, and I'll give that for 10 also. x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, so find the slopes for 9 and 10, and we will talk about these when you guys come to class next. See you then.